Ebony Natanda carefully laid out her husband's clean shirts on their creaky double bed. She smoothed each one as if perfect symmetry could somehow bring order to their marriage, which was falling apart at the seams. Outside the window of their small house in Westavia Hills, the early October twilight was descending. The sound of water came from the bathroom. Tyrone was taking a shower after work at the auto repair shop. She used to wash the traces of machine oil from his neck herself before he went to the shower. Now she just folded his clothes, trying not to notice the strange smell of women's perfume that she sometimes caught on his shirts. Tyrone came out of the bathroom with a towel around his hips, drops of water glistening on his dark skin. Muscular, fit, with a short haircut and a well-groomed beard, Ebony remembered how she had fallen in love with him 8 years ago when he repaired her old Honda for half the price and asked for her phone number as compensation. Going somewhere? Ebony tried to make her voice sound casual. It was only 6 o'clock on a Wednesday evening, and Tyrone was already getting ready to leave. Yeah, I have to help Hamid with an order. The customer is willing to pay extra for the rush. He avoided her gaze as he pulled on a fresh shirt. Ebony nodded, keeping her expression neutral. Hamid did work with Tyrone, but sudden evening orders had become more frequent in the last 3 months. She used to torment herself with questions, going over the names of all the women in their circle in her head, checking phone bills. Now she just silently folded his clothes and counted the days until her next shift at the clinic. I made jambalaya, your favorite, she said as she left the bedroom. Tyrone gave her a guilty look. Sorry, baby. I'll grab something to eat on the way. Don't wait up for me for dinner. Their small living room contained an old sofa bought at a sale, a worn coffee table, and a television, their main luxury. Next to the TV was a shelf with photos, Tyrone and Ebony on their wedding day, them fishing with Ebony's parents, a group photo with Tyrone's cousins at a barbecue. When the door slammed behind her husband, Ebony sank down onto the sofa. The aroma of hot spices wafted from the kitchen, reminding her of the evenings when they had dinner together, sharing stories about their day. Now she ate alone in front of the TV and fell asleep before he came home. The next day, Ebony left the Southern Star Clinic at the end of her shift. Short, with short dreadlocks tied back in a neat bun, she moved with the kind of composure that distinguishes people who are used to handling everything on their own. Today, she had received some unexpected test results and was trying to figure out how to break the news to Tyrone. Ebony, wait up! Imani Bosham, a recently hired nurse, caught up with her at the parking lot. Tall, with long braids, Imani always looked like she had stepped off the cover of a fashion magazine, even in her hospital uniform. Want to join us on Friday? We're going to Blues and Bourbon. There's going to be live music. Her smile seemed sincere, but something in her eyes always made Ebony wary. Thanks, but Tyrone and I already have plans, Ebony lied. In fact, Tyrone had already mentioned twice that he had another urgent order on Friday. Oh, I see. Say hi to him for me. Imani continued to smile, but now there was a strange intimacy in her voice. We have an opening in the intensive care unit. You wanted to transfer, right? I put in a good word for you with the head nurse. Ebony thanked her politely, not understanding why the new nurse was suddenly taking such an interest in her. Imani was a strange combination of excessive friendliness and subtle condescension. On her way home, Ebony noticed a police car outside Mrs. Perkins' house across the street. The elderly lady was standing on the porch, clearly upset, talking to a tall man in plain clothes. Ebony recognized Detective Kendrick Bales, who had recently been transferred to their precinct from Birmingham. What's happened, Mrs. Perkins? Ebony approached her neighbor, with whom she sometimes shared baked goods. Burglars again, dear. Mrs. Perkins shook her head. That's the third house on our street this month. They took my earrings, the ones Mr. Perkins gave me for our 40th wedding anniversary. Detective Bales turned to Ebony. He had a calm face with attentive dark eyes and a short haircut with graying temples. Have you noticed anything unusual lately, Mrs. Intanda? Ebony Intanda? No, nothing like that. She paused. Although I did see an unfamiliar car a few times, a silver sedan. It was parked at the end of the street about a week ago. Detective Bales wrote this down in his notebook. Did you get the license plate number? Ebony shook her head. I'm sorry. If you remember anything else or notice any suspicious people, call me. He handed her his business card. And be careful. Lock your doors and windows. At home, Ebony checked her jewelry box. Everything was there. It wasn't that she had many valuables, but her wedding ring with a small diamond meant more to her than all the savings in their joint account. That evening, Tyrone came home earlier than usual. Ebony had just finished ironing his work overalls. The TV was muttering softly in the living room, another crime show, which she had started watching more often since she began spending her evenings alone. Mrs. Perkins's house was robbed. It's the third one on our street, Ebony said when Tyrone kissed her on the cheek. He smelled of motor oil, cigarettes, and something else. Tyrone frowned. Damn, we'll have to check the locks. What did they steal? Jewelry. Ebony paused, then decided it was the right moment. Tyrone, I have something to tell you. I'm pregnant. His face froze for a moment, then lit up with a smile, but Ebony caught a glimpse of panic in his eyes. That's wonderful. He hugged her tighter than usual. How long have you known? I got the results today. 6 weeks. Tyrone sat down on the sofa, his face a storm of emotions he was trying to hide. Are you happy? Ebony asked, even though she already knew the answer. Of course I'm happy. It's our baby. It's just unexpected. They had dinner together for the first time in many days. Tyrone was unusually attentive, even offering to wash the dishes. They talked about the future baby, about how to convert the second bedroom into a nursery, about possible names. We should tell your parents this weekend, Tyrone suggested, and Ebony felt a pang of suspicion. He usually found excuses not to visit her family. At night, when Tyrone fell asleep, Ebony lay awake, listening to his steady breathing. She hoped that the baby would save their marriage, bring back the closeness they had lost. But deep down, she knew that children don't glue broken relationships back together. They only make the breakup more painful. The next morning, Tyrone left for work earlier than usual. Ebony was getting ready to go to the clinic when she noticed that he had forgotten his phone. This was so unlike him that she suspected something was wrong. The phone was password protected, but Ebony knew the combination: their wedding date. She felt ashamed for checking his phone, but the suspicions that had been building up for months needed to be confirmed or refuted. In his messages, she quickly found a conversation with a contact named IB. Her heart sank when she saw the term baby and numerous hearts in the messages. The photos sent by this contact left no doubt about the nature of their relationship. The last message was from last night, right after their conversation about the baby. We need to talk urgently. Things have gotten complicated. She's pregnant. The reply came almost instantly. What? You said you hardly ever sleep together. Don't you dare leave me because of this. Let's meet tomorrow at the usual place and think it over carefully before then. I love you. Ebony slowly sank to the edge of the bed, the phone trembling in her hands. IB. Imani Bosham. Now it all made sense. The new girl's strange friendliness, her hints, her suggestions about transferring to another department. Tyrone had been cheating on her with a colleague, and now that Ebony was pregnant, they were discussing what to do next. It became difficult to breathe. The room swam around her, and an icy emptiness formed in her stomach. Ebony carefully put the phone back where it had been. She wasn't going to make a scene. Not now. First, she needed to think everything through and decide how to protect herself and her unborn child. Ebony stood under the shower for almost an hour, letting the hot water wash away her tears. When she finally came out, having made her decision, it was already dusk outside. She put on a simple black dress and did her hair, not for him, but for herself. Tyrone came home late, smelling of alcohol and someone else's perfume. He froze in the living room doorway when he saw his wife sitting in the dark with his phone in her hands. Have you been looking through my phone? His voice sounded tired, without any real indignation. Imani Beauchamp, Ebony said simply. My colleague. You didn't even try to hide it, Tyrone. He sat down across from her, rubbing his face with his hands. I was going to tell you. Before or after our baby is born? Tyrone grimaced. Listen, it's not what you think. What am I supposed to think when I read you discussing my pregnancy, making plans behind my back? It's nothing serious. With Imani. Just a little fling. She means nothing to me. Ebony smiled bitterly. Are you trying to convince me or yourself? I saw your messages, Tyrone. You tell her you love her. Tyrone lowered his head. I was confused, okay? She came along at a time when things between us were complicated. It got complicated when you started lying to me. Ebony tried to speak calmly, even though she was boiling with anger and pain inside. So what now? Are you leaving? Ebony thought for a moment. No, I'm pregnant with your child. I'm giving you one chance. Cut off all contact with her, and we'll try to save our family. Tyrone nodded silently, but his eyes betrayed his uncertainty. The next few days were agonizing for Ebony. She didn't know if Tyrone had kept his promise. He came home on time, was attentive, and asked how she was feeling. But sometimes she caught his tense gaze fixed on the distance and realized that his mind was somewhere far away. At work, she avoided Imani, switching shifts with other nurses. But one day they bumped into each other in the locker room. You've been avoiding me, Ebony, Imani said with feigned concern. Is everything okay? I heard about your pregnancy. Congratulations. Ebony looked around. They were alone. I know about you and Tyrone. Imani didn't even try to deny it. She just smiled, and there was something predatory about that smile. He said he broke up with me for the sake of the baby. Very noble. But do you really think a baby will keep a man who doesn't love you anymore? Don't you dare talk about my husband and my child, Ebony said quietly but firmly. He'll come back to me anyway, baby or no baby. Ebony felt particularly tired that evening. At home, she found a strange bouquet on the porch, dark red roses. There was no card, but she knew for sure that Tyrone never gave her flowers without a reason. 3 days later, Tyrone came home looking gloomier than a cloud. She came to the workshop. She made a scene in front of everyone, he said, without even saying hello. Ebony didn't need to ask who he was talking about. What did you say to her? That it's over between us, that I have a family. He looked at Ebony's belly, which was already starting to round out slightly. But she doesn't understand. She says she won't back down. The next morning, Ebony noticed a scratch on her car door, a long, vicious line from the hood to the trunk. And that evening, she saw Imani standing across the street, watching their house. When their eyes met, Imani waved like an old friend. Ebony began to suffer from constant fear. She couldn't sleep at night and jumped at every little noise. Everyone at work noticed her condition. She lost weight and had dark circles under her eyes. The doctor warned that severe stress could harm the baby, but she couldn't calm down. A week later, Ebony left the house and saw Detective Bales talking to her neighbor across the street. Catching her eye, he approached her. Mrs. Ntanda, how are you? I've been better, Detective, she replied honestly. He looked at her closely. Has something happened? Ebony almost decided to tell him about Imani's harassment, but changed her mind. Just pregnancy. Everything's fine. Congratulations, the detective smiled. By the way, have you noticed anything unusual lately? The burglaries are continuing, and we think the thieves may be watching the houses before they rob them. I saw a woman watching our house, Ebony said, surprising herself. Tall, with long braids. My colleague from the clinic. Detective Bales frowned. Your colleague is watching your house? That's strange. We have a complicated relationship, Ebony replied evasively. If she's bothering you, you can contact the police. We take stalking seriously. He handed her his business card. Call anytime. That same evening, she and Tyrone had a terrible argument. He received an anonymous call at work saying that Ebony was allegedly seeing a doctor from the clinic. How can you believe this nonsense? Ebony shouted. It's obvious that Imani is trying to break us up. I don't know what to believe. Tyrone paced the living room like a caged animal. You're always at work. You come home late. I'm a nurse. I work shifts. Unlike you, I don't lie about where I am. Maybe the baby isn't even mine, Tyrone blurted out. Ebony froze, struck to the core. Do you really think that? Tyrone immediately regretted what he had said. No, Ebony, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. Get out, she said quietly. Get out of my house. This is my house too. Not today. I can't see you right now. After he left, Ebony sat motionless for a long time, her arms wrapped around her knees. Suddenly, she felt a sharp pain in her lower abdomen. When she stood up, she saw blood running down her legs. At the hospital, they told her there was nothing they could do. Too early, too much stress, possibly some congenital problems. Ebony lay in her hospital room, feeling an emptiness inside that nothing seemed to be able to fill. Tyrone didn't come to visit her. He sent a message with an apology and a promise to talk when she got home. But when Ebony was discharged on the third day, he wasn't home. He came late in the evening, looking guilty and without the bouquet of flowers he should have brought. Ebony, I'm so sorry, he began, sitting on the edge of the sofa. It's my fault. Yes, she replied simply. It's your fault. I shouldn't have doubted you. I shouldn't have talked to you like that. Did the doctors say stress was the cause? Among other things. Tyrone sighed deeply. I have something to tell you. I saw Imani today. Ebony looked up at him, her eyes red from crying. Not what you think, he added quickly. I told her it was over for good, that I didn't want to see her anymore. And how did she react? Badly. Tyrone grimaced. She threatened to tell you some details about our relationship, said she wouldn't let me go, but I stood my ground. Something in his words made Ebony wary. You talk as if this is the end of the story. Tyrone stood up and paced around the room. I've been thinking a lot, Ebony, about us, about what happened. He turned to her. We can't go on like this. What do you mean? I don't love you anymore, he said simply. Not like I used to, and you know that. Ebony felt the ground slip away beneath her feet. Are you leaving me for her? After everything that's happened? It's not her. It's us. We're not happy together, Ebony. And now that there's no baby, leave, she said quietly. Pack your things and leave. Tyrone nodded. I'll spend the night in the workshop. I'll get the rest tomorrow. When he left, Ebony didn't cry. Something inside her had finally broken. She checked the time. It was almost midnight. It was too late to call her parents. She took out Detective Bales's business card but put it aside. What could she say to him? That her husband had left her for his mistress right after her miscarriage? That she felt so empty and hurt inside that she didn't know how she would make it through the night? At 3 a.m, she was awakened by the phone ringing. Mrs. Ntanda, this is Detective Bales. Sorry for the late call, but I need you to come to 27 Industrial Drive, to your husband's auto repair shop. What happened? Ebony immediately sensed something was wrong. A long pause. There's been an incident with your husband. I need you to come as soon as possible. The Quick Hands auto repair shop was flooded with the flashing blue and red lights of police cars. Ebony was led through the crowd of onlookers to Detective Bales, who was waiting for her at the police tape. Mrs. Ntanda, I'm so sorry, he said, and from his tone, Ebony knew that something irreparable had happened. Is Tyrone dead? She asked bluntly. The detective nodded. And another woman, Imani Bosham. What happened? Preliminary reports indicate a double homicide. They both suffered gunshot wounds. A security guard at a nearby warehouse heard the shots and called the police. Ebony felt the ground slip away beneath her feet. Detective Bales caught her and helped her into the police car. When was the last time you saw your husband? He left the house around 9 o'clock in the evening. He said he was going to spend the night at his workshop. What about Imani Beauchamp? Did you know she would be there? Ebony shook her head. I didn't know, but they were having an affair. Detective Bales looked at her intently. You'll need to formally identify the body, but not now. Right now, I'm going to take you home. Detective! Ebony suddenly grabbed his arm. I didn't kill them. I was home all night. I didn't say you were a suspect, Mrs. Ntanda, Bales said gently. But thank you for telling me. I'll keep that in mind. Kendrick Bales spent a sleepless night at the police station, sorting through the initial evidence in the double murder case at the Quick Hands Auto Repair Shop. In front of him lay photographs from the crime scene, the body of Tyrone Nintanda with a gunshot wound to the chest next to a car lift, Imani Bosham with 2 bullet holes in her heart near the office entrance. A 9mm pistol was found next to the woman's body. The preliminary version was simple. The lovers had a fight, and it ended in tragedy. But something bothered Bales. He remembered the look on Ebony Nitanda's face when he told her about her husband's death. It showed pain, but not surprise. It was as if she had expected something like this. Coffee? Captain Morris placed a paper cup in front of him. How's it going? Thanks. I'm still gathering information. The victim's wife said her husband was having an affair with the murdered woman. A classic love triangle. Morris nodded. By the way, I received a report from the first officers on the scene. They found a note in Bosham's purse. It looks like a suicide note. Bales frowned. And what did it say? If I can't have you, no one can. Typical story. She killed him, then herself. Possibly, Bales said. But I'd like to talk to Ebony and Tanda in more detail first. 2 hours later, Ebony was sitting in the interrogation room. Bales noted her lifeless gaze and mechanical movements, signs of shock. Mrs. Ntanda, I know this is a difficult time, but I need to ask you a few questions, he began gently. Ebony nodded. I understand. Tell me about your relationship with your husband recently. She sighed. We grew apart, about 6 months ago. Then I found out about his affair with Imani Bosham, my colleague at the clinic. When exactly did you find out? 9 days ago. I found their correspondence on his phone. And how did you react? I confronted him. He admitted it, but said it wasn't serious. I gave him an ultimatum, either her or me and the baby. Bales paused. The baby? Ebony lowered her eyes. I was pregnant, but I had a miscarriage 3 days ago, after the fight with Tyrone. I'm so sorry, Bales said sincerely. What happened after the miscarriage? Tyrone said he was leaving me. He doesn't love me anymore, and without the baby, there's no point in staying together. Did he mention that he was going to meet Imani that night? No. He said he would spend the night in his workshop and pick up his things tomorrow. Bales paused. Mrs. Ntanda, where were you between 9 p.m. and 2 a.m.? She looked up at him. At home. Alone. Can anyone confirm that? No. Do you have access to a gun? No. I hate guns. Bales sighed. Mrs. Ntanda, I have to be honest. You are the prime suspect in this case. You had a motive, jealousy, betrayal, the loss of your child, and your husband leaving you. You have no alibi for the time of the crime. I didn't kill them, Ebony said quietly. I couldn't have. Despite everything, I didn't want Tyrone dead. What about Imani? Ebony paused. I hated her for destroying my family. But I'm not a murderer. After the interrogation, Bales was not sure of her guilt. The version of Imani's murder and suicide seemed logical, but something about the story didn't add up. In the days that followed, he immersed himself in the investigation, interviewing colleagues of both victims. He learned from clinic staff that Imani had started working there just 2 months ago and had immediately taken an interest in Ebony. She was always asking about her, said head nurse Doran. Where she lived, who her husband was, what her schedule was like. We thought she just wanted to be friends. And when did the affair with Tyrone begin? I don't know exactly, but about a month ago, Imani started receiving bouquets of flowers at work. She bragged that she was dating a colleague's husband and said he would leave his wife for her. At the auto repair shop, Bales learned more about Tyrone's last days. He wasn't himself, said Hamid, a colleague of the deceased. Especially in the last week. She was calling him constantly, coming here, making a scene. The boss was already thinking of firing him because of this circus. What about his wife? Tyrone said he screwed up, that he ruined his marriage because of an affair. He regretted it, especially after, well, what happened to the baby? Was he planning to go back to his wife? Hamid shrugged. I don't know about that, but he definitely wanted to break up with that crazy woman. He said she scared him, that she was capable of anything. Bales thought about it. The picture was starting to become clearer, but he needed proof. He requested Ebony's blood test results from the hospital where she had been treated after her miscarriage, and a search warrant for Imani's apartment. Imani's house was perfectly tidy, as if she had no plans to die. In a desk drawer, Bales found a diary. The entries from the last few weeks were filled with obsession with Tyrone and hatred for Ebony. She doesn't deserve him. She can't give him what I can. He says he loves me, but he still lives with her. It's temporary. Soon we'll be together. Pregnant. That bitch is pregnant. She did it on purpose to keep him, but I have a plan. The last entry was dated the day of the murder. He said he's going back to her, that it's over. After everything I've done for him, he'll regret it. In the bathroom, forensic experts found vials of powerful drugs capable of causing a miscarriage. And in the refrigerator, they found a container of homemade cookies, which analysis revealed contained traces of the same drugs. Ebony's blood test results confirmed the suspicions. Traces of misoprostol, a drug that can induce miscarriage, were found in her system. Bales summoned Doreen from the clinic for questioning. Did Imani ever bring treats to work, especially for Ebony? Doreen thought for a moment. Yes, a couple of times. Homemade cookies, I think. She said she wanted to cheer Ebony up. Now everything was falling into place. Imani deliberately caused Ebony to miscarry in order to remove the obstacle between herself and Tyrone. But the plan backfired. When Tyrone learned the truth, he decided to break up with her for good. But one question remained. Who shot whom? Did Imani really kill Tyrone and then herself? Forensic experts discovered that the gun found near Imani's body was registered to a Raymond Beauchamp, her father. Imani's fingerprints were found on the handle, and traces of gunpowder on her hand confirmed that she had fired the gun. Ballistics tests showed that the bullets that killed both victims were fired from the same weapon. The angle of the bullet wounds in Imani's body was consistent with suicide. Bales invited Ebony to the station to tell her about the results of the investigation. Mrs. Nintanda, I have news about your husband's case, he began. We have concluded that Imani Beauchamp shot him and then killed herself. Ebony nodded silently. But that's not all, Bales continued. We have found evidence that Miss Beauchamp deliberately caused your miscarriage by spiking your food. Ebony turned pale. What? Traces of misoprostol were found in your blood. It was in the cookies she brought you at work. She killed my baby? Ebony's voice trembled. It looks that way. And when your husband found out, he decided to break up with her. On the evening of the murder, he met her at the workshop to settle things once and for all. How do you know he knew? His colleague Hamid said that Tyrone received an anonymous call that afternoon. After that, he was very upset and said that she had gone too far. We believe that someone from the clinic told him about Imani's actions. Ebony covered her face with her hands. I don't understand. If he found out that she did that, why didn't he tell me? Maybe he wanted to deal with her himself, to protect you from even more pain, Bales suggested. Or he was afraid of your reaction. Why do you think she killed him and not the other way around? The forensic examination showed that Tyrone was killed first, from a distance of about 2 meters. Imani shot herself in the heart while standing. The gun belonged to her father, and we have her diary, which clearly shows her intention. Ebony was silent for a long time, digesting the information. What now? She finally asked. The case will be closed. You are free from suspicion, Mrs. Ntanda. As Ebony was about to leave, Bales stopped her. One more thing. Nurse Doreen said your husband called the clinic frequently last week, asking about your health. He was worried about you. Ebony smiled sadly. Thank you for telling me. A week later, Bales met Ebony near the cemetery where Tyrone was being buried. She stood apart from the main group of mourners dressed in a simple black dress. Did you come to see him off? She asked the detective. Bales nodded. And to see how you are. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how I feel. Grief? Anger? Relief? All of the above. That's normal. I lost my husband and my baby because of a woman I didn't even really know, who decided she had a right to my life. Bales paused, then said cautiously, I looked through Tyrone's phone. There was a message he wrote to you but didn't send, on the night of the murder. What did it say? I know everything about what Amani did. I'm sorry I doubted you. I'm going to end this. And then, if you'll let me, we'll start over. Ebony's eyes filled with tears. He didn't make it. No, but he tried to make things right. You know what's the worst part, Detective? I'll never know if he genuinely wanted to come back or if he just felt guilty. Does it matter now? Ebony stared at the fresh grave for a long time. Probably not. What's done is done. Now I have to learn to live with it. After the funeral, Ebony decided to sell the house in Vestavia Hills. Too many painful memories. She applied for a transfer to another clinic in another city. A new beginning. Every time she drove past the Quick Hands auto repair shop, she turned away. Detective Bales sometimes called to see how she was doing. Not out of professional interest, but simply out of human concern. And that helped her believe that someday the pain would subside and life would regain its meaning. But for now, she simply existed day after day, carrying within her an irreplaceable loss, the husband she once loved and the child she was never meant to have.